Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a Chateaubriand for my Christmas dinner meal. It's a remarkably simple meal to make, but you've got to know a few things. To start, you're going to need a beef tenderloin. This one's 7.5 pounds. They cost you anywhere from 85 to 105 bucks or so. You can get them just about anywhere you can get meat. Butcher, Costco, Sam's have them now, your grocery store. The trick to the tenderloin is to not be wary of that price, because when you break it down, you're going to get 5 or 6 fillets out of it and some stew beef and the tenderloin itself. And the fillets alone, if you went out and bought them on their own, would be 60, 70 bucks. So you're really saving a ton of money by buying the cut of meat by itself. So I'm going to open this one up. Try and get it out of the package here. And the first thing you want to do when you get it out of its vacuum sealed package is rinse it down real quick with some cold water and then pat it dry with some paper towels. So now that I've rinsed it, I'm going to come in and just kind of blot dry it with my paper towels. Make sure you get both sides of it. And these paper towels now have raw meat juice in them, so they go straight in the trash. Alright, so there's very little waste in a tenderloin. Now that I've got it dried and rinsed and everything, I'm going to start trimming it down to the actual red meat. You'll notice there's 3 basic things on the tenderloin. There's the red meat, there's this fatty tissue here, and there's a white reflective membrane here called silver skin. The silver skin and the fat have no value whatsoever, so we're going to trim them down, remove them, throw them in the trash. Now, the fat comes off pretty easily in chunks, but the silver skin, there's a trick to it. You want to tease your knife up underneath it, and then at an upward angle, here, just to get a grip, I'm going to come out here, but at an upward angle inside the silver skin, you're going to just pull, and as you're pulling, you're using the knife to just strip it off. That's a pretty good strip of silver skin that I've removed, and that goes in the trash. Now I'm going to finish doing this off camera, and I'll show you what it looks like when we've got it down to the meat. Now as you're breaking down the fat and the silver skin, it becomes apparent that they're naturally occurring muscle fiber separations which reveal the anatomy of the tenderloin. Now the most apparent is on this end. It'll pull apart really easily, and you've got this segment called the chain. Now up here at the top there's another part of the chain. Now that comes off pretty easily. Down at the tail you don't have to be too careful, you just slice it. Now when you're cutting off the chain, you want to be careful to not damage your tenderloin. So if you're worried about it, cut into the chain, not into the tenderloin. And that's what you got with the chain. We're going to take that, set it aside on our plate for later. Now up top at the head of the tenderloin, we've got this piece which separates out pretty easily. This is the petite roast. This is a completely separate meal if you want it to be. It's really great stuff. It separates out pretty easily as well. You've got to dig into this chunk of fat and then come in. Separate that out. So that's your petite roast, and that's awesome. I'm going to set that aside to deal with it later. Now over here, with this other end of the chain, I'm going to start up top, come in, and remove the bulk of that from my tenderloin. So that's the other segment of the chain. Now, between these two sections of my chain and the tail of the center of the tenderloin, we've got some pretty exquisite stew beef. So we're going to come back to that later. But this right here or so, this 2.5 pound segment, this is what we're really after. This is the center of the tenderloin, and it's going to make our awesome Chateaubriand. Over here and right about here, we've got 5 or 6 fillets that we're going to make, and those are just going to be fantastic. So I'm going to continue to break it down. Alright, now at this point, I'm going to show you how we're going to come in and get our fillets and our stew beef out of the center of the tenderloin. I'm going to set aside the chateau. Now, to start, you're going to come over here, and you're going to take the tail, and that is going to be awesome stew beef. So I'm going to toss that aside. Now we're going to start getting our fillets. There's one fillet. It's 2 fillets. 3 fillets is all I'm going to be able to get out of this left side of the chateau. And 3 fillets. Those look gorgeous. Now I'm going to take this 2.5 pound section of chateau, and I'm going to separate that from everything that I'm doing. Now this here, you can see, is a well marbled, uniform cut of meat, and that's going to become our Chateaubriand. I'm going to set it aside for a second and come get these other fillets. See how many we can get out of this. There's another one. It's 5 uniform fillets. 6. And this last bit here is awesome meat. So I'm going to butterfly it into a fillet. Now to butterfly a fillet, you want to come down to about 1/8 of whatever the thickness of it is. And then lay it out like that. And that is 7 total fillets out of our tenderloin. Now I'm going to neaten up and bag up all of my fillets and my stew beef and my petite roast, and we'll get back to the chateau in a minute. Alright, so now that we've completely cut and broken everything down, we've got about 1.25 pounds of stew beef. This is exquisite stew beef, and I've sealed it airtight in a Ziploc bag, and I'm going to throw it in the freezer for later. I've got our 7-inch thick or 1.25-inch thick fillets. That's about 1.5 pounds. And then I've got about 1 pound of petite roast and All three of those are going to go in the freezer so that I can focus on the 2.5 pound Chateau. And if you look at this, this is what you want. Minimal marbling, gorgeous all the way around on each end, Chateaubriand, center of the tenderloin. And then we got about a pound of fat and trimmings left over, and that goes straight in the trash. So we're going to focus on cooking the Chateaubriand from here on out. Now that we've finished prepping the meat, we're going to start preparing the meat for cooking. To do that, you've got to coat it with olive oil, sea salt, and ground pepper. You want a little bit of olive oil, just enough to give the sea salt and pepper something to stick to. I'm going to put in my hands and coat the meat lightly with it. On both sides, not neglecting the ends. Now once you've done that, you want to take a light amount of sea salt, because it is in fact possible to oversalt this. And again, you're looking for an even glaze of sea salt over this. Once you've done that, you want to come in with your ground pepper and coat that on top. Get the pepper on there, and you should be ready for your hot skillet. Now, over a medium to medium high heat pan, we're going to sear the Chateaubriand to seal in all of its juices prior to the actual cooking in an oven. So to find out that your pan is the right heat, water will vaporize like this. And then we will coat the pan with a little bit of olive oil in the center. Now we will take our meat and put it fat side down in the center of the pan. From here on out, to handle it, we will be using cooking tongs. You can use a spatula, but tongs are more effective. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's been seared on one side and then do the other sides. You may want to lightly tap the ends once you've done all four sides. So that's what it looks like once it's been seared on one side. Alright, this is what the meat looks like after you've seared all the edges evenly and the ends. We're going to take the meat, put in a rack, take the rack and put it back into our pan, and then now we're going to place the meat in an oven at 350. It'll probably take roundabouts 45 minutes to an hour. We're searching for an ideal internal temperature of 130, so we're using temperature, prong, and since the meat is about that thick, we're going to go to half of that and stick it in the exact center of our meat. Now we will take this and put it in our oven. Now that the meat has been in the oven at 350 for approximately 40 minutes, we took it out and we let it rest for 15 minutes. It is ready to carve. So I'm going to make sections about that thick. And that looks to be perfect, medium rare temperature, and it's completely consistent throughout. So now you know how to make your very own Chateaubriand, and thanks for watching.